Friday, the 20th day of January 2025. Welcome to today's edition of the morning show. Good morning, Africa. It's a new week for that matter. We are attacking the week with verve, vim, vigor, vivacity, and I'm hoping that we all reap, you know, what we sow. So if you sow good things starting from today, by the end of the week, it's my fervent hope that you would have sown whatever or you'd have reaped whatever you wish to reap. But let me once again welcome you to the show. Those of you watching across the 46 other African countries via satellite, we are ever grateful to you. And those of you watching us in some parts of Europe and of course South America, thank you so much for your time. On the internet, our Facebook stream, facebook.com/Pan-African Television. I know Prince Derek Ajay can't wait for that so that he gets to share to his many fans across his many fans across the country. We'll be hoping to see him on TV this morning. And let me run you through quickly the topics that we have tabled for today's conversation. Then I'll proceed to introduce my guests. Ceasefire brings hope to Gazans, families of Israeli hostages. This story is in page 9 of the daily graphic newspaper. 8 dead in clash between small-scale miners and soldiers guarding AngloGold Ashanti Obuasi mine. Constitution Review Committee formed experts to present recommendations in 5 months. And finally, EC appeals for security to complete Ablekuma North coalition. EC appeals for security to complete Ablekuma North coalition. Interesting. These are the topics that we'll be discussing on the show this morning. Once again, be a part of the conversation. Let me know what your thoughts are. 05599198020, 05599198020. Share your thoughts with me. I'll read them in the course of the show. I've been joined this morning by Prince Derek Ajay of the National Democratic Congress, the maverick Prince Derek Ajay. I know he doesn't like it so much when I refer to him as a maverick, but of course all of you watching can bear eloquent testimony that there's a man who says it as it is. Mr. Derek Ajay, good morning.
Well, good morning, and I'm wondering why you would say what you just did.
But you are.
You know somebody
in as much as you try to be modest about it. I don't know if modest is also the right word. You try to be modest about it. You are, and our viewers attest to that fact.
Well, if you insist, I won't fight you. It's a new day. President Trump will be inaugurated today.
Yes.
The world is about to hit another reset in another part of the country. I don't know whether it's positive or negative, but let's all help reset our country, and hopefully it will be the better for it. I wish that in the coming days we'll see wonderful things, even as the government takes shape. I'm very, very excited to be seeing the young faces of new appointees on the graphic and other newspapers, Eduji Tamaklo, Koku, the whole bunch, Fetsi. I mean, it's very refreshing.
And the women.
Yes, and yes, of course, the women.
Mrs. Harkastle.
Yes, Harkastle, MFR, and all of them.
Professor Ama Brown Kluche, very intelligent woman.
And when you go to trade, well, not so young, but still very
experienced.
Yes, I think the emphasis on experience is also very key, and that goes to tell you that while the president is keeping his promise of having the youngest cabinet or the youngest set of appointees, I think also that the emphasis on experienced hands is also showing. I think that he's living true to it. Let us all give him the necessary support, and as a country, let's move our nation forward.
Right. Mr. Felix Larry-Silfi is a development economist and executive director of IDER. He was on the show, I think, last week. He's joined us once again this morning. Mr. Silfi, good morning. I hope you're fine.
Yes, good morning, and nice meeting you once again. And to add to what my colleague said, I think the youth of Ghana are all excited. For once, I mean, since I started growing up, this is the first time I've seen a government that has given so much opportunity to the youth. And the there is this school of thought that the youth cannot do it. I remember one of the former MPs for MPP, I think Honorable Katie Hammond, was arguing that the youth, when given the opportunity, cannot handle it. So this is our test, and I believe that we'll be able to live up to task and then actually prove the skeptics wrong. And so congratulations to all of them, and I am happy. Thank you.
You mean you want to prove Katie Hammond? I've worked in the youth space for quite some time, actually.
Yes,
8 years I was at the youth sector as National Youth Authority and then Youth Enterprise Support. And so I'm excited. And in fact, I think also that the significant thing that the president has done beyond the gender ministry, which already exists, is to have a youth development and empowerment ministry stand alone. And I think also that Pablo will do a good job. I mean, he's had experience, a very long-standing experience as a DCE, and so he has that. It comes with a wealth of administration, yes, and the administrative thing, and then connecting with the youth at the grassroots. I hope very sincerely that we'll have patience for the new government. That is for me very key. A number of people are trying to stampede the government into various things, and what is
that is, incipient. It doesn't make any sense to me that you expect in a matter of like how many days, 13 days, yes, you expect some magic. It doesn't. I don't think any rational, right-thinking human being would expect that kind of,
Well, that would be an insult to a whole lot of people, because
I understand, but then
the policies and then the promises. The president is yet to define the policies, but the promises in the manifesto can be considered in a way a social contract with people. And so, in one vein, when we insist that he should keep to, for example, his 60 ministerial appointees, and then in the next, you don't want him to implement oral, which is a promise that he made on the back, and a social contract on the backs of which he won an overwhelming, mandate. You look at other policies like the tribunal system, when you have a packed court, which we've all been complaining about. I mean, two things can happen. In resetting the court system, you either remove the packing, you unpack the packed courts, and put in people that you also are confident that can deliver justice. All right? Or you can have a parallel system, like say a two-track system, and let the tribunal work. In any case, the tribunal is not illegal, it's not unconstitutional. I mean, so some of the arguments that are being made in an attempt to gag and also stampede the president in directions that doesn't make sense. Like you said, it's just a matter of time, we'll see. But the president should stay focused, the government should stay focused, and the Ghanaian people must rally support. In any case, until the 120th day, he said he was going to do a number of things. And so at the very least, let's just give him that space. I'm hopeful that very soon, at least the first set of ministerial appointees, nominees who have been vetted will be confirmed. And then once they assume office, things like oral will, gain that, shall I say, operational, scope within the Attorney General's outfit. He's promised a few things, and I think that the fears that some people have will be allayed, because in any case, I'm sorry I'm having to deal with this right now, but just so we can lay the foundation before we go into the international news. Charity begins at home. I think that the arguments that have been made about oral, it's about for me, it's much ado about nothing, because in any case, the Constitution, and it's been widely put out there, but for emphasis, because some of your viewers may not have listened to other networks. One, it is not everything that is in the Constitution or not in the Constitution that we can consider illegal. And it is not everything that has not been legislated upon that is illegal. So whereas in one vein, the oral may not have been given legal backing, it has constitutional basis, and even legal basis, because there are laws and then aspects of the Constitution that allows for even ordinary citizens to do the things that oral has been taxed to do. And I think also that the timing of its setting up has come into question, that the president was then president-elect and not president. So then you ask yourself, why are they not complaining about the national security team that he put in place? There would have been chaos, there would have been a vacuum between the 6th of January and the 7th of January when we became president. And we've seen it in the previous transition, that's in 2020, when there was an invasion of parliament, for example, and then when people were asked that who sent the police and military into I wasn't the Finance Minister. I wasn't president. I wasn't this. So there were no government, at the executive level in place. And so with that foresight, he's put this in place. Much the same way, we saw that Bronyans and others go after people's cars and so on, and it was justified by their party chairman, Blay, and so on, that these are justifiable things that should be done. So if the president, with that foresight, has tried to make sure that these things are done in an orderly manner, okay, through a body that he was constituting, which body, when he assumed office, made further pronouncements. So even if the previous pronouncement was done as an ex-president, the subsequent pronouncements are as president. And so it's a moot case. In any case, anything a president says is policy. You don't need for the president to put it in writing or anything he says. And it's supposed to be put in practice by his ministers or other appointees at whatever level, at the parastatal level and all that. So I think that it's just dry bones and old ladies at play. The MPP know they've looted. We've seen evidence of looting. The BNI and other people that they are saying we should take those things to. The BNI director that they appointed was even caught in the web. So how do you take his own matter to him? And so, look, I think that the president should just be bold. He has the mandate of the Ghanaian people. He should sack and replace. BNI, go, put in your own. And then you are responsible for the outcomes. Because you cannot use Akufo-Addo's men to implement your vision. In any case, they were diametrically opposed to you. In fact, they don't wish you well, and they will sabotage you like they've sabotaged. I don't want to say the markets were sabotaged, but we all can see the timing of these market fires and all the things that are happening across the country. The feeding of the school children, he's fixed it. Dumso, he will fix. President Mahama will keep on fixing things, but we must reset sector by sector. Press the reset button.
Right.
Push them out.
Right. We all are brimming with optimism. Sometimes I just think that people do not know, or maybe they are a bit ignorant. Yesterday I saw on Facebook somebody saying that it's been 2 weeks of Mr. Mohammed's presidency and she's still paying e-levy and she's still paying COVID levy. COVID levy, e-levy, all of these came through an act of parliament. It didn't just happen. And so, the president just can't get up and say, I'm taking it off. It has to go back to parliament. Parliament.
They want him to rule by decree. Is that what they want? If they want the president to rule by decree.
Yeah, and in any case, we all know that even his finance minister, who's supposed to implement such policies, has just been vetted.
Yeah.
And he's yet to be either confirmed or rejected. We don't know what is going to happen, but we all know that he's going to be confirmed.
So, I know we have expectations.
So I think we are all saying, the expectations ought to be managed. Because this is
sometimes we have overblown expectations.
No, but the point is that, look, the 2 weeks of President Mahama, not to sound biased, you can see the relief of people within the system, and the speed with which he attend to issues. For example, yesterday, what happened at Obuasi, and I was surprised. Within the shortest possible time, a statement has been released, from the presidency. This is the kind of leadership we have been yearning for the past 8 years. So I think it is early days yet. Like we are all saying, let the expectations be managed, and he is actually going to, deliver as we all expect, him to deliver.
Right. Let me say a special good morning to Afrique Men Couture. Afrique Men Couture are responsible for my apparel this morning. As you can see, it's looking all bright and nice on television. Then, so yes, Afrique Men Couture. Make sure you contact them. 027-534-3270. 027-534-3270. Yes, the number has been displayed on your screens. If I tell you the amount of money I paid for this, I literally got it for a song. And so contact them if you want something similar. They'll do it for you at a discounted cost. Just mention my name. Tell them you saw it on Pan-African TV, saw Bless Word, and that they should do the same thing for you. They'll reduce the price. Very, very affordable. Yeah, right. Let's get into today's conversation. We are starting with happenings in Gaza and Israel. A long-awaited ceasefire between Israel and Hamas finally got underway on Sunday morning. There had been a delay of a few hours as Israel insisted it first received the names of the 3 hostages due to be released during the day. In a statement, Hamas reaffirmed its commitment to the deal but said the hold-up in providing the list was due to technical reasons. Brokered by Qatar, Egypt, and the United States, the office of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said it took effect at 11:15 hours local time. Qatar's Foreign Ministry spokesperson Majed Al-Ansari confirmed the Gaza ceasefire had officially begun as the list had been handed over to Israel. There are 3 Israeli citizens, one of whom is of Romanian nationality and the other of British nationality, and thus the ceasefire has begun, he said in a social media post. During the delay, Israel continued to strike the enclave, killing at least 13 Interesting. Killing at least 13 Palestinians and wounding 30 others, according to Gaza's Civil Defense Agency. This part of the story is very interesting. To me, you've agreed on a ceasefire, and because there are some technical delays, you continue bombarding and killing. Despite the fact that you have agreed, you continue bombarding people, killing people, wounding people, just because of that room that is there, that smoke screen or that gray area that is there, you decide to exploit by further killing people. Very, very interesting. The agreement ends more than 15 months of delayed deadly strikes in Gaza and brings respite to the besieged enclave. 33 people held by Hamas are to be released in the first 6-week phase of the ceasefire in exchange for Palestinians being held in Israeli prisons. Meanwhile, people in Gaza have begun returning to what remains of their homes. The United Nations said some 90% of the population was displaced several times by the Israeli offensive. People could be seen with cars or cartloads of their possessions across the enclave, including in the north, where some of the most intensive airstrikes and battles took place. Much of the enclave's infrastructure, including schools, hospitals, and services such as water and electricity, was destroyed during the 15-month war. This is the entire story. It's captured in page 9 of today's edition of the Daily Graphic newspaper. This isn't the first time in the last 15-16 months that we are hearing of a ceasefire. Sometimes they come to a truce, though temporarily, just for a few, but sometimes they even agree for like a month or 2 that okay, there'll be ceasefire for like 2 months or 3 months, and then they return to fighting. But for me, it is senseless. It is senseless because as long as you think that you are placing value on human life, on people who belong to your country, then it means that all the time that value should be there. You can't continue to pick and choose that, okay, at this time I'm going to kill people because of the fact that I have my people in their land. Let me also kill them. And then at another time you decide that, okay, why don't we have a deal? Bring my people, let me give you your people. It doesn't make sense to me. But let me hear the thoughts of Mr. Prince Eric Ajay on this issue.
Once again, a good morning to all my fellow Ghanaians and compatriots of Africa and the world at large. I know you're very well watched around the world. So, I see a similar thing unfolding in different parts of the world. And whilst we're going to home in on Gaza and therefore the Israeli conflict with, quote unquote, its Arab neighbors. And I'm saying Arab neighbors because there's been a war before.
Yeah.
There's history to this.
Yeah.
And history paints a picture of Israel being under siege, not just from the south, but in fact, kind of like it's a big war situation, and the geopolitics of it brings America into the center, and hence the kind of ceasefire negotiations necessarily having to have America play a very pivotal role. We also know that some of the Arab countries, its neighbors, if you look at Hezbollah, it has not been funded by the Lebanese. If you look at, the other, quote unquote, the Israelis will call them rebels, the others will call them freedom fighters, however you look at it. Their protagonists are mostly funded and armed from other states like Iran and so on. So there's a proxy war kind of thing going on, and Israel has its own partners, principal amongst them being the U.S. And so the arms and arrangements that they have underpins why we have or we don't have, a ceasefire permanently. The UN may have voted unanimously, or at least the vast majority think that there should be ceasefire. At least a humanitarian corridor should be created for people who want to even escape, assuming that there's no ceasefire, and also for food and medicines to be brought in. We also have seen Israel defy even international rules of war.
Yeah.
The Bibi, okay, sorry.
Hospitals.
Yeah, the bombing of hospitals. I was saying Bibi, and I realized that I need to use his official name. Netanyahu, that's the prime minister, also has his own domestic issues of.
Wait, what's the other unofficial name?
Never mind. Let's move on.
Well.
Yeah, I mean, we all have our Nikis. I have my PDA. Somebody has his
so
JDM.
His Nikki.
Bibi.
Okay.
Now, you see, I think that his domestic issues, one of investigation on corruption and stuff like that, and then his chances of even remaining prime minister being so slim, and the fact also that now he isn't running more of a union government kind of situation because he couldn't have the kind of majority that he required to, as it were, have a free hand in ruling the country. And if there was election, then the likelihood of him leaving office and then him being prosecuted, many believe has been the reason why he's been prolonging the war, because you hardly change a president or a leader in war. So, I mean, these are some of the factors that people assign to the, the war that's ongoing, and then even trying to escalate further to not just deal with the Gaza situation, but also go into Lebanon. But then also some of these things have been preempted by not Israel. So, for example, whereas Israel knew, and intelligence shows that they were aware there was going to be an invasion, that's the one that killed the thousands of Israelis, that precipitated the current war. People also think that the uneven-handedness of Israel has not been good. And then some faulty intelligence that they provided to back up has not really, kind of like been firm, because some of them have been debunked. Some videos show, for example, bunkers that are supposedly used by the Hamas fighters, which, later turned out not to be true. So then there's the trust issue. Then there's also the wider issue of the geopolitics of it. The BRICS countries, that's the Russian allies, China, etc., including South Africa. And I'm saying South Africa because South Africa took on the challenge of sending Israel to the International Criminal Court. Yeah. And you'd want to believe that it is not just an accident that South Africa did that. I mean, South Africa itself having come from such a background of apartheid and all that. Bringing this up, I believe strongly that it was more of a BRICS, move. That is to put America and, let's say, the NATO or its allies on a very sharp, divide. So I welcome this ceasefire. I hope it stays. But I also do believe that it could have come or should have come much sooner, not on the eve of Biden leaving office. Biden may want to have a legacy, but it should not be one that could have avoided much more bloodshed. And I was hopeful that if there was going to be a ceasefire in Israel, versus its neighbors, it should not just be the Gaza one, but it should also have the Lebanese component and perhaps a broader regional, ceasefire, that would then make it more sustainable. Because if Israel, attacked, and you remember not too long ago, somebody was killed in Iran, precipitating the Iranians, shelling Israel. And then there was a possibility of an all-out, bigger, war out there. But then again, you realize that the other surrogates, like if you take the Yemenis and the kind of blockade that they've, created, and its impact on, global trade and all that, and the fact that the British, the Americans, etc., have been, drawn into that conflict by, dealing with the Yemen, people. For me, again, I think that that what will make this whole thing go away will be a new Trump. When I say a new Trump, not the the one that is, well, I can't say how he's going to be, but I wish that a new Trump will be more sober. I wish that a new Trump will be looking at global peace, not the Trump we knew. He's been saying, for example, in one vein, that he's going to end the war between Russia and Ukraine. But the basis for which he's saying it is not what I think is the right way. But if he takes steps that would end that war and would focus on ending other wars, namely this one that we are discussing, and the others on the Lebanese side, and consequently, he's more of a business person, and he's actually made some statements recently that confirms to me that the possibility of us having a new Trump who will be business-minded rather than just bellicose, as we have known the old Trump to be, is that he has made a request for a 50-50% stake in TikTok, as opposed to his outright ban, which is a shift in his position, because if his earlier position was that don't deal with TikTok because of the possible intelligence, kind of thing, and now he's looking at a business sense of, okay, let's have a 50-50 stake so that we will have as much interest in it and therefore know everything that goes on. So you Chinese don't have majority, and therefore if you do, we'll also do the same. I think it's a better situation than the bellicose Trump would say, no way. I don't know about his border issues, but I'm hoping that his border issues also will not come and complicate our lives, or his try to remove immigrants. But by and large, I think that he holds the key to the ceasefire that we are hearing about. It's not coming to force yet. Today, by midday America time, he'll be president, inaugurated, fully president of the of the United States of America. And I think that the global peace, overall global peace, will hinge largely on his very thoughts and how he wakes up every day. So let's pray for Trump. Let's pray for the world. But more so, let's do what we can do in Ghana to ensure that there's even greater peace. If you look at Koku and other flashpoints, and lately they're coming up thick and fast. You go to the Karachi area, I mean, like, it's all over. I'm hopeful that this is not being instigated. I pray. And if anyone is behind any of these, know that today you might help some people start an insurrection, but you may not have control over it. And before you know it, it will either catch up with you, your family members, or your loved ones. So let's all work towards peace. That's my admonition to Ghanaians and the world, I think.
Right, thank you very much. Mr. Sophie, Gaza, Israel.
Yes, so I have not actually been too much a follower to what has been happening in that region, but I think it is a good news, to start, because for the past 2, 3, 4 years around the globe, because of this international geopolitical tensions, a lot of wars have come here and there, which, in terms of economic wise, it has impacted the global economy in a very negative way. And so, as my colleague just said, it has not yet taken effect, but I think it is a step in the right direction, in the sense that there is going to be societal reconstruction. There is going to a ceasefire will ensure that there is humanitarian relief, since civilians within that particular enclave will no longer live in fear, and therefore they will be able to go by their normal businesses and activities. And then there is also going to be economic stabilization. Take the global economy aside, within that particular region, economic stability has been an issue because there's no economic activity actually ongoing in that particular zone. And so the ceasefire, if proper negotiations go into it, and we try to actually remove the tree by cutting the stumps, or the root of the stumps, we should be able to, enjoy that particular longevity in economic stabilization. And then, Israel and the Palestinians have also been doing businesses, especially when it comes to oil and other valuable international commodities. So investors, have not been able to have full confidence in venturing in such area or in that particular zone. So if we are able to achieve this huge milestone in terms of bringing a ceasefire and then peace, hopefully a lasting peace in that particular region, I'm sure investors will now have to rethink, in terms of trying to go to such an area to do businesses, which will also end up, in terms of economic reconstruction, will create jobs and then make people, the livelihood of people better. And I will talk about, women and children, the education of children. Women have been wrongly killed for wars that they have nothing to do with it, and these things, is highly uncalled for. And I think if the world, will be very bold, especially the United States and the United Nations will be very, very bold, I think some leaders have to be called to answer certain questions, questions in terms of some of these killings or unwarranted killings. We need to actually live as a unified body, because the world is a global village, and as my colleague rightly said, we hope to see a new Trump, because I've also, during their campaign to the eve of the elections, I heard him categorically saying that if he assumed office, in fact he was even bragging, let me use the word brag for want of a better word, that in 2, 3, 5 hours to 24 hours, he's gonna end the war between Russia and then Ukraine. Of course, the modus operandi that he was actually alluding to, as my colleague said, is not really the best. So we hope to see, I agree with him, we hope to see a new Trump who is more engaging, a peace, builder, and then try to help, because America, no matter how you see them, they still hold some world superpower, even though there is now a countervailing powers between the BRICS side and then the NATO side. However, America still have a key role to play in terms of bringing a lasting peace in that region, especially looking at their historical relationship between Israel, for the past centuries or decade. I don't know. Yeah. So I think it's a good call. Let's hope for the best, and then let's all have a world full of peace, and stability. Yeah.
Right. A world full of peace. That's all we all pray for. Be a part of the conversation. Let me know what your thoughts are. Text line very active, 05599199802, 05599199802. Let's move away from Gaza. Let's come back to Ghana. Yesterday, something happened. Persons have lost their lives, valuable lives for that matter. And there have been lots of statements flying around. I'm talking about happenings in Obuasi where 8 persons have died in a clash between small-scale miners and soldiers guarding the AngloGold Ashanti Obuasi mine. Let me read the story. A violent clash between small-scale miners and military personnel guarding the AngloGold Ashanti Obuasi mine has left 8 people reportedly dead. 4 vehicles were burnt in the confrontation in the Ashanti regional town. The incident, which occurred last night, has heightened tensions in the area. According to Eric Jemfi, an eyewitness, the small-scale miners besieged the premises of the mine at midnight, arriving fully armed and opening fire. The motive behind the attack remains unclear. Soldiers guarding the facility responded with gunfire, leading to the death of over 8 miners. Injured individuals have been transported to the Obuasi Government Hospital and the AGA Hospital for medical treatment, while the situation in the town continues to deteriorate. Following the clash, agitated members of the small-scale miners have taken to the street, vandalizing property and burning ties. 4 vehicles, including buses, have reportedly been torched, further heightening fears among residents. Very interesting. The presidency released a statement, I think, yesterday to this effect, and he's asked that investigations should be conducted into the killings, and also he's asked the mining company to foot the bills of the people who have been injured as a result of the clash, and also make preparations for the burial of those who tragically lost their lives. Mr. Derek J, have Ghana's military been high-handed, unnecessarily high-handed? I'm asking this question based on precedents. I was here, I think, in 2023 or 2022, I think. What happened in Ashaiman, where a soldier man was killed, and then the military decided to invade Ashaiman, unleashed mayhem on people who didn't even have anything to do about the death of the soldier. Whether you were, whether it appears that we are not making use of intelligence as far as our security apparatus is concerned. And for me, this is not any different. But what do you think?
Well, first, I want to believe that we must look at the military within a certain context. I have my issues with the military, and I think that it stems from personal experience with the military. I take the statement issued by the military with not a pinch of salt, but a bucket full of Ada Songo salt. Okay? And I'll give you why. I'll start from where the example you used in Ashaiman, not far from here. There was the WA issue, where somebody's mobile phone was missing, and they decided to go into town and beat up everybody in sight, including pregnant women, making people drink gutter water, making people, all sorts of inhumane things were done to people. Then we saw Ejura, where we saw the military man squad take aim and actually fired into the people, killing some people, maiming others. We know what happened in our previous elections and the role of the military. That's thankfully President John Mahama has asked for an investigation. That's the 2020 killing plus the 2024 election killings. I think that perhaps he may want to look also into the Yawaso Westward one. That didn't involve the military, but some paramilitary kind of action that resulted in maiming of people. We know the characters. There was an investigation, a commission of inquiry. Unfortunately, the president of the day put a white paper, and then impunity that it generated, carries on till today. The personal experience that I want to allude to is Plecho. Plecho, near Bema Camp. I was there, where the citizens of La had gone there to protest the military's takeover of our lands, on the back of what the elders had, indicated to the government of the day, and on the back of what petition that the president had received, that is President Akufo-Addo had received from our late chief, then he was alive, Nico Bitetichuru, of the military's clandestine attempt to take over our lands. The military did not just fire warning shots, they beat the hell out of people, and 3 people died after the incident, not on the spot, but died from the injuries. Then Minister of Defense, Dominic Little, and the Chief Director made some donation to at least one of the families. But it was a personal donation. Up to now, the military high command, which a day after the incident, that's the 15th of April, I remember very well, 15th of April, was when the incident happened. On the 16th, the same person who issued a statement that was totally far, it was far removed from the truth that we knew. I know for a fact. So as for this military gentleman, honestly, I think that he should be removed. Personally, that in countless times that he's signed on to statements, and whenever you see his name now, for me, straight away, it's like, it is not true. But it may be true, the account. So he's so badly discredited, in my view, that he's not worthy of writing any statement on behalf of the Ghana Armed Forces. Letters were written to the army following from that, and I know that for a fact because we personally and I was part of the team that handled it, including the IGP. No investigation. In fact, that literal incident, the then director of operations, that's they were all there. I was with them. The commanders, they were all the regional commander, the district commanders. They were all there. They all saw. They were eyewitnesses to what happened, and yet nothing happened. So in this instance, we have had 2 or 3 different accounts. One is of the miners who claim their leadership said they went in there to mine. So they confirmed an illegality. They had no basis for going into the AngloGold World facility, because if a concession is granted a company, it's like it's private, property. You don't go inside by cutting through the fence or breaking through. However you enter, it's illegal. Okay, so that is the first one. So they acknowledge that. Then the second part is that they went there to mine, not to do alluvial mining, but in the Bubasi area, that one is hard rock, mining. So they go in, they go get some of the ore-bearing rocks, then they go, crack it up, whatever they do, and get their gold. Yeah, that was illegal. In my view, let's not call them small-scale miners. These are individuals, human beings who went illegally into a concession, and in an attempt to get livelihood, were, confronted, and then the incidents that occurred. And this is not the first time. It's happened there before, leading to the death of the corporate manager. If you remember, some time ago, I think one of their cars ran over the corporate manager and he died in the process. But that incident, I think about 2 years ago, and that one, they were throwing stones at the people, the mining company people, and that, assume that they were the cars were, trying to retreat, and then the gentleman died. In this particular instance, the miners are denying opening fire. The military are saying the miners opened fire, and they returned fire. We've had incidents. If you remember, the police has been accused of murdering people. If you remember, Asawasi, claiming that it was a crossfire. We've had incidents of the police lying about people, that they were armed robbers and so on and so forth. So the institutions of states need to be reset. In fact, the military needs to be reset. I believe personally that apart from the commander-in-chief of the Ghana Armed Forces, which is the president of the Republic of Ghana at any point in time, nobody else must have military escort. And that should include Jean Adokwe Mensah. And all those people who use military people to hold their handbags and do all manner of menial things. Maybe perhaps the defense minister can be excused because technically they are his staff. And then, of course, the military hierarchy who have their batmen and so on. But as civilians and so on, you see, we have kind of debased the institution. The military has a role to play, and they must be confined to that role. They are trained to kill. They are not peace enforcers or peace whatever. Yes, they may go on peacekeeping missions and stuff, but their role is not like in civilian life. If we need to recruit more policemen, let us recruit more policemen. Let us have a professional police force that is responsible for the peace and security internally, and let the military have its role as those who man our borders and protect the territorial security of this country. Let us not use, people wrongly. You can go and take a knife, okay, and pretend it's a chalk. How does that work? The military is the military, the police is the police. So we said to ourselves that election security, for example, we're not going to use the military. Now, some people still insisted that the military should be part of the architecture. These people are trained to kill. So on what basis do we deploy the military to private concessions to guard? Why don't we have the police? And the police has different units. Trust me, the police has the formed police unit, which is technically like a military kind of force. We have the SWAT team. In fact, we have the FPU, we have the NPU. Look, they have many, divisions. The motorized, look, that's the military people. Are they Ghanaians? They're Ghanaians. The police, they are Ghanaians. And they are trained differently, and attacked differently, and deployed differently. So I think that is where we need to first reset this whole situation from. And I think that every time going forward, we should always be using the word reset. We have a bad situation. We must press the reset button. And then from that point forward, whatever we think should be the right way, should be the right way. We're going to soon have a constitutional review. And I'm sure that most of these things that may be ambiguous, the gray areas, will have to all be hammered in properly. So everybody knows their role and they stay strictly in their bounds. Now, the military, again, the terms of engagement. If they actually shot those people, like it's been said, whether it was through crossfire and so on. It happened on private property. So the responsibility, first and foremost, lies on the person on whose property that happened. And perhaps it will also serve as a kind of, even though I don't condone the military being there, assuming it was even the police, and still, in the course of any activity, something happened on your property, you owe a certain responsibility, duty of care, and also a responsibility, so that people do not give instructions. You know, sometimes people will give instructions to their watchmen. When you see him, kill him. When you see him, beat him. But if you know that you hold some liability, because every human life is important and it belongs to the state. Again, the president doesn't have his full complement of ministers. He doesn't have his defense. Doesn't have he doesn't have anything. Okay, so and I've had people question that why is the president saying that the AngloGold people should take responsibility for the whatever happened? Remember the blast that happened at Piatin? Who bore the responsibility of the damage? Wasn't the company that was contracted to carry the thing, or whoever it is whose agreement? So why are people in one breath making excuses for the past government, but are so quick to, as it were, put a heavy burden on a president who doesn't even have a government, who doesn't have the resources, because some people have plundered the resources and left. We all know the situation in this country. The country has zilch. The money is in people's pockets, and so oral and other forces are able to retrieve those monies, and for us to have it, and the president to have his first budget passed and to be able to have proper money to spend. I mean, this chicken change that was left him was just to run till March. And even that with some hesitation. And we know the kind of situation we have. We have debts we have to pay. America is breathing on our necks. If we don't pay American companies, even IMF should not give us further funding and so on. So I think that those who are being too hard on the president, please take your time. The man is barely, in fact, is he even 2 weeks old? Tomorrow. 2 weeks. He's not even 2 weeks old. I mean, what baby did you put a heavy burden on like this? So I think that the company is not complaining. But in any case, if an investigation is done, and the investigation shows that indeed A, B, and C happened, and there's even no liability on the company, it can be reimbursed. But in the immediate, I mean, shouldn't people be taken care of? Where's the health minister? Is the health minister? So the president can direct who? Who is the president going to direct through? There's not even a designate minister. Yeah. And unlike the past where you have the person responsible for health going to the place illegally, quote unquote, to throw his weight about and antagonize even the technical people ahead of the person eventually taking office, and creating the blood, dirty or bad blood between them and those who he's going to work with. The president has decided to stand clear. Wait, hopefully, who knows? I mean, there are various ranking members now who are being appointed to substantive ministerial things. If that trend follows, then maybe Akando, assuming that he's appointed, then he can, act in that stead. But to assume that maybe Akando was a ranking member, so technically he should run to the ministry and become the one de facto head of the health ministry, and then ordering the system to kind of take charge of this, or who else is the president supposed to use right now? So let's be patient. Let's have a little patience for the president and the new government that is more of an embryo, in the formation stage. And I'm sure in the fullness of time, we'll get to the bottom of it. But the most important thing is that he's asked for an investigation. So we would need for the investigative bodies to quickly do that, and professionally so. We do not expect the military to tell us they are doing an internal investigation, because since 2021, 15th April, the Plecho shooting incident, the report has not come out. And the military that promised that it was going to do that now has buildings on the land. The first thing that was supposed to be prevented, they have sold their lands. They have sold the base ordnance unit. You know where the base ordnance unit is? It's directly opposite the Lands Commission office. And then they sold all their military facilities to the left of 37 military hospital, and including the DVLA and the police, around the police church area, the taxi rank and so on, to Bediako, Jeddah and the Badr, to build another airport city thing. In exchange for Plecho. Why the La people? Why? Anyway, that's for another day. But I think that ultimately, the president has taken the right steps given the circumstances he finds himself in. Ghanaians must be patient and cooperative. And I think, personally, I think that banning all forms of mining now may just be triggered by this incident. Not necessarily banning.
Would you think that would be too? Wouldn't you think that would be too draconian?
To quote who? Abu the thief. Sorry, no. You see,
Abu Jinapo, please. I don't know about the latter
please,
part.
that gentleman, the least said about him, that EC, why have they allowed him to be in Parliament when the office was bent, when there was no pink sheet, read collation, etc. You are keeping Abdulkaman North and other people out, and somehow Abu Jinapo is in Parliament. Charlie, that's another day. But anyway, the point is this: draconian or not, this incident may well be one of possibly many others that may happen. So, I think that banning in the short term all forms of mining, and I'm saying all forms of mining, that would include the AngloGolds and so on. And then in short order, have all of them come to the table and sit with the government to draw up how they are going to go about their business going forward. So we reset one, the large-scale mining, which may start almost immediately, depending on what terms and conditions the president and his ministers and whatever other agencies are involved in the mining business, the Minerals Commission and so on, decide. So that if somebody has a concession, this concession, you are responsible for everything that happens in it. If you put military in here, concession taken away, for example. If the police, you enter into an arrangement with the police or the other, whatever, fine. So people don't go outside of the vision of the president, the national policy direction for deploying any form of security, so that people don't arbitrarily have, sometimes they even have people in military uniforms who are not military. We've seen that in many instances. You remember Erastus?
Yeah.
The incident he had in Manso Quanta, where the military deployment was, as it were, guarding the Chinese galamseers. And then they had the Delta and invisible forces also present. We've seen this on tape. Nothing happened to these people, and they are still doing it. Recently, do you know that one of their other multimedia journalists has been wounded? In December, before the handing over, about 20th December, thereabout. The name escapes me briefly. But he was injured in another mining situation like that, whilst he was covering the thing. They wanted to cut off his right leg. He attempted to hold the cutlass. His fingers were twisted, bad cuts on the head and so on. What is this? I think that a ban should not be out of place. So we can reset the small-scale mining also. Then we come to these community mining and other forms of mining. Then there's the alluvial side and this other deep, mining situation, which are all totally different, because people see mining as mining. I know the president knows what to do. His men will know what to do. Right. But in my view, I think that we may have to use this to press the stop button. Before the play button is played, there should be a reset, and there should be a common understanding of the terms and conditions under which mining can go on. Multilaterals, multinational companies, local companies, etc., etc. If somebody is injured on your grounds, and then also you don't stray into these territories, let's have a conversation around it, and let every Ghanaian understand clearly that this is the way we want to go. I think that this president is a consultative president. I am hopeful that in the coming days, beyond the statement that has been issued, which is for me a good first step, we must see something a little bit more elaborate in terms of how we are tackling this, so that comprehensively we can put this whole galamsey thing, etc., to rest.
Thank you very much. I'll do a few messages before I come to Mr. Silty. Patrick says good morning. Good morning, Patrick. Thank you, as usual, for doing the watching. Seidu John Paul says, watching live from Tamale. Thank you, Seidu. Atandanga Pius. Good morning to you, Bless, and your panelists. I'm watching you live from Upper East Region, Chianapaga. Musa Batwa says, President Mahama deserves commendation for appointing competent individuals to the Constitutional Review Committee, addressing gaps in the Constitution and proposing proposing solutions to national challenges. This demonstrates his commitment to strengthening democracy and promoting national development. Thank you, Mr. President. Abese Adontain says, well done, PDA. Dobia Usman says, I agree with you. The military has no business in our internal matters. We are learning our parliamentary rules from UK and USA. Why can't we copy our security system from them? Okay. Michael Anku says, reset is simply the key to this country's success. Okay, thank you, Michael. Charlie Bless, that be... Say, Charlie Bless, that be what the securities they do, the inhabitants, so especially Wasa and Nzima, brutality pound, unless you bribe these officials heavily. My regards to Uncle Segbefia, a long time no see, in regards to PD, Prince Derek Ajay. So Jane Mensah was using the military to hold her Birkin's bag, Ajay, okay. Abdul Rashid Jibril Sawadugo says, good morning. Good morning, Abdul Razak. I hope you're fine. Right, on this note, let me now come to Mr. Esilfi. The messages are still coming in, though, but let's hear from you, Mr. Esilfi.
Yes. First, I would like to commend the president. In terms of the swift nature of the decision he took by issuing a statement and then instructing the company to ensure that those who are injured are catered for medically, and then proper arrangements should also be made for the people who have lost their lives. And I think that is a very good call. But Bless, I think as a nation, we have to take a real look at our recruitment process when it comes to our military. It's a call to duty, and that is also part of the resetting. In fact, it is actually the root of resetting, because for the past 3 to 4 years, or let me say from 2017 up till this time, I have never seen the recruitment of the security forces being advertised in the daily news as it used to be done in previous years. So as a result, you see politicians, smuggling people who do not even have that moral, in terms of intelligence, to be able to apply and then get themselves enrolled and properly trained to be in the forces. We see party vigilantes who are being smuggled into these forces.
You mean Delta and...
Yes, Delta forces and then invisible forces and all of that. And we saw what happened in Iowa's Wagon. We saw in Kumasi during the early days of the outgone government, court was in session in Kumasi, and criminals are being taken through the due process of law. And all of a sudden, you saw these guys trooping in, and the judge even has to run for his or her life.
Pregnant judge.
You understand? Now, all these things does not project a good image for our country in terms of wooing international investors to come into the country. It is bizarre and highly embarrassed to see a whole military holding the handbag of a government official or a public official.
I mentioned the name.
It's very, very bad.
Mention the name.
I'm talking of our electoral commissioner.
Our beloved Adukwe.
Very, very bad. Is that what, or is that, is that the purpose of the military? Is that what they are trained to do? So I think it is a call on us to do that resetting in terms of looking at the recruitment process and then their operations. Right. We need to really take a real look at that. Now, Bless, when it comes to civilian and military encounter, like what happened, is it yesterday or a few days ago at Obuasi?
Yesterday.
Question is, what is the modus operandi? One side of the party is well trained. Yeah. The other side is just an ordinary civilian, most of which are not even armed. And even if they are armed, it can be just some knife and whatever.
Pump action.
Now, at that moment, yes, the report is saying, the military is saying that there are people, they felt that their lives were under threat, so they had to actually, they had to shoot in self-defense. But do we have to be proportionate or disproportionate at this level, such that, in fact, you're reading, I think the newspaper is reporting 8, but what I've been hearing in other, from other news, other news agencies,
9,
in fact, some are even saying 15. This
okay.
morning, yes, when I was coming, I heard on the news 15. But even if it is one life, it's very, very important that a proper investigation is actually launched into. And like my colleague said, we don't want to hear the security agency in question, in this case the military, saying that we are initiating or triggering our own internal investigation. I think it is too many in this country where when these things are happening, these security agents tend to shield their own people, and then they sit on the matter, and then the matter dies just like that. This is lives, and most of them are breadwinners, for their families. Now, I think we also have to look at the companies. If we don't take care, and it is coming, because the youth of this country are getting frustrated day by day. One of the reasons they voted massively for the John Mahama and then the NDC is as a result of the fact that they feel like they are being denied their basic fundamental human rights when it comes to a decent means of livelihood. And if you look at Obuasi, if you look at Takoradi, where most of these companies are actually operating, we shouldn't forget, I was just a neighboring country, Nigeria, Niger Delta, years ago. It's because these companies don't actually have good relationship with the indigenes of the area where they are operating. What is the social and economic benefits of their activities to the indigenes in the area as we are talking now in terms of their operations? It's all about livelihood. These guys are actually going to look for a means of livelihood. Of course, it is what they did fundamentally is illegal by encroaching, but the point is that what could be the cause of all these things? Unemployment is there. In fact, I have been in Obuasi and stayed there for almost a year or two growing up. And bless, if you get there and you see the level of teenage pregnancy, the level of low, or let me put it, low level of girl-child education, unemployment, agriculture, which could have been a safe zone or a safe haven for them because of the mining activity, is actually not lucrative over there. So the point is that I think government, and it's also part of the research, and I am happy my honorable colleague is here, he can let President Mahama hear. There should be a deliberate renegotiation when it comes to some of our business relationship with some of these companies. Not only Obuasi. Go to Takwa, go to Prestia. Sometimes I don't understand why a company is actually working in such a community, and with this small community, government still has to go and then take care of their social amenities for them in terms of roads, schools, supply of water. Can't we have a deliberate negotiation, with these, companies, by ensuring that they take up these particular duties off the shoulders of government? So I think the whole situation, well, it's very, very bad, very, very bizarre. But we just don't have to go and then initiate investigation, get people who are culpable of this act and punish them. But we have to look at it holistically. Let's have a sociological view of it. Let us have an economic view of it, by ensuring that the people over there are given what is due. If you go to the operations of the company, I'm sure there are some low-level kind of opportunities that these youth can be engaged in.
Man, I take serious offense to it. Why low level? All levels.
No, I'm talking in terms of perhaps these people who went there. I don't have any facts, but it may happen that they are not well educated to think that they can be working.
You'd be surprised. with the banking sector collapse, a lot of bank managers.
Well, I will not dispute that fact.
So when you see an Uber driver, don't assume that is.
I will not dispute that fact. I agree. I agree with you. Yeah, but the point I'm making,
24-hour economy will solve that problem.
Of course, and then I have written extensively on that. If you look at last week, 11th of January, right? Business and Financial Times. Yes, I wrote in favor of that.
Yes, very well.
So yes, I agree with you that there may be some well-educated people there who could be given some decent opportunity to work with the company, but it may so happen that, look, the opportunities at that level may not be much.
Exactly.
But down there we have a large, chunk of youth.
So that's where you missed my 24-hour economy. Now with the 24-hour economy, you're making it times 3. So the unavailable jobs at the top now have 2 extra people coming to become managers and middle management personnel.
I agree, so but the point is that looking at the way over the years, most of these youth have been deprived of education because of poverty. Let's face facts. Okay, the 24-hour economy will come only if, or to be successful in that area, only if the required human resources at that level, in terms of the middle level or top management level, is there, is available over there. But I'm talking about in terms of proportion. A large proportion of the people, of the indigenes there, are at the basic level, where I think the highest education you can talk of is maybe junior high or senior high. Some of them even at the primary level, they drop out. But there are other skilled jobs that are within the company that maybe local content we need to take a relook at, and then engage these people over there. And then also provision of schools, provision of scholarships, provision, I'm sure they are doing some of the, but it should be expanded to, the coverage ought to be expanded to cover a lot more people, so that the people will feel that we are benefiting directly from what is being done on our land. If you go and sometimes look, some of the buildings, beautiful buildings, there are a lot of cracks and all manner of things over there. And if you match it up to the benefit that they are getting, I don't think the people within this enclave, be it Obuasi, Takrade, and Takwa and Co, are being treated fairly. So again, I will talk about the fact that we should take a real look at our recruitment process. We should also have a well-defined, means of using our military. It is obvious they are meant for external security. The internal security should be absolutely be in the hands of the police. It shouldn't be left in the military has no business to. When I was growing up, it would be for you to see even a military man in a uniform in town. It was not common. It was not common. As I was coming this morning, I was driving, I saw most of them standing and helping in directing traffic. I'm not saying it's bad, but the point is that don't we have adequate number of police officers within the system to be doing some of these things? It will get to a time the civilians will no longer respect the military. And when we get to that level, it's a serious national security threat. Because as a military, if you lift your gun, how many people can you kill at a time? If you are confronted with over 500 civilians coming at you, and I don't think we should get there. So that resetting agenda ought to be very, very comprehensive, and it has to cut across all sectors of our society. I think that is what I would say.
Right. Let me just add the points for clarity on the 24-hour
economy
that I raised. And I'd like to link it also with the onerous responsibility that has been put on the broad shoulders of Pablo. The new Ministry for Youth Empowerment, look at the nomenclature very well. It's not just youth development and empowerment. And so I think that even whilst he was making the submission, I interjected briefly, because I was hoping that he would take the cue, that with the 24-hour economy coming into being, what it would mean essentially is that if AngloGold, for example, decided to, as part of whatever reset conversation that I was proposing we had, agreed to come on board and to ensure that obviously there's a very huge, availability of human resource in the area. These people want employment, and that is causing what is happening. There's deprivation and so on because the people don't have employment or gainful employment, or these are not lazy people who are sleeping and saying, bring us money. They want to do something. They may have some skills from having operated, however, at whatever level. They can be polished up and put into the mine at a certain level, so that the huge chunk, like you said, may be at the bottom pyramid. Then there will be other people in the committee who may have been trained in the Takwa School of Mines, etc., who are in the committee and haven't been given jobs or haven't gotten jobs. Obviously, you can't go and be a mining engineer and then be driving an Uber. That's waste of your knowledge and talent and time as well. So let us engage these as part of whatever reset based on this incident, for example, and going forward, that the middle and even the upper. So if you look at the oil, the rigs and so on, the local content issue must be looked and addressed within the context of a 24-hour economy thing, which would then translate into, and that's if Pablo, that's the new youth minister designate as in development and empowerment, is minded. I think that he should now start crafting things along those lines, sector by sector, so that the agricultural component, which he talked about, the degradation of the area, sometimes they blast the thing, people die. We should look at the whole value chain in terms of the mining thing and look at how it impacts even on the community, the society, and so on. I think also that the responsibility of the companies towards the local development. I mean, in other places, if you go to South Africa, typical example, when you go to a mining community, the development that you see is the total opposite of what you see when you come to Ghana. And that is not just unfair, it's unreasonable. And so we must press the reset button on that. So we change the dynamics of having a situation where there's just exploitation and then repatriation of whatever money is outside. And I agree with Kwesi Pratt when he says that sometimes, in some instances, it looks like it's even better for us to keep the minerals underground.
Of course.
Because if it has no impact on the country or the society, the immediate community. Yes, but you see, there again, I think that the people also, the mindset also has to be reset. And it's going to take some doing, but I believe that with the goodwill and the kind of understanding that Ghanaians generally have for this government, without the tinkering of the wires by some NPP people who have started too early doing their partisan whatever. They should look at the national dynamics. 120 days is not a long time to, be a country and think nationalistic. Let's come together. Let's think about the country. Let's reset, and then you can start, as it were, poking into the government's agenda as it rolls on from the 120th day. So let's give that time frame. Yes.
Look, the pressure that is coming on government, as you have been alluding to since we started this discussion, it's actually not coming from Ghanaians. Let's be clear here. Ghanaians in total are aware that President Mahama has not even yet finished forming his complete government. The noise you are complaining about, you know where it is coming from.
Even MPP are not Ghanaians.
No, they are part of it, but I'm talking about they are a section, a particular group who, out of maybe the pains that they have still, they have not yet healed from.
Oh, okay.
Out of the elections,
okay,
are desperately looking for something to hold on to accuse the president of.
Okay.
But in totality of Ghanaians, and let me put it this way, the floating voters,
okay,
the middle class people who understand over the years comparing the Mahama 1 to Akufo-Addo's first and second up till now, will attest to the fact, and if you listen around, everybody is happy even with the few actions that have been taken within these few weeks.
That's true.
So don't be bothered about it. I'm not sure that even the president is bothered about it. He knows where these things are coming from. You understand? We are patient. We know that as we speak now, NDC ought to understand that they are our last hope. Because the country is virtually a one-party state now. Let us run away from that. Let us not run away from that. The country, as we speak, is almost a one-party state now. Because NPP only won in how many regions? 3 regions, right? And then there are a greater number of constituencies that they don't even have MPs there. So we can't classify such a party.
3 regions? Well, which one is it? 2.
It's 2 rather, right?
Yes.
Okay. So out of the 16, you won. You won 2 in your favor. And then out of the 276 constituencies, you have, I think, 88, right?
If fairly judged, it will be about 80.
Okay, fine. No, I know that some of them are actually, in contention. Yes, and then Abu Jinapo, as you made mention, and even Ablekuma North, and even I think Obuasi thereabout.
Yes.
So all these things, if it is cleared, we will know where they lie. But for now, let's assume the numbers over there. It tells you that NPP can no longer, at this moment, we cannot classify such a party as a national party. So President Mahama and his government or NDC cannot fail this particular country. And Ghanaians, as I sit here, me for one, and some few people I deal with in business, are patient. Because we know that something that has been damaged for 8 years, we cannot use 4 weeks or 3 weeks to fix it. So the people we see on, social media throwing tantrums and then making comments and all manner of things, ignoramously, I heard some people even criticizing him that he has gone to buy $600,000 a car. Just recently that he came. This is a man, he has not even sent his budget today. The one they gave him is just to cater for the economy for, I think, from now up to March. Peanuts. And you are accusing him, he has not even moved to his official residence or the office to start with. At the moment, he's using his own private office. So these things, you will see these gendarmes around, people peddling this falsehood and all manner of things. Well, I don't think you have to bother yourselves about that. You and your colleagues in government, please, you keep focused. We are all expecting something, significant from you, but we are not in a haste to such that we are expecting you to perform magic. It can be so. So I think that one shouldn't be a bother at all. Honorable.
Right. Thank you very much. I'll read some more messages. I've received quite a number of them. Watching you live from Lower McCarthy Hill. Bila, thank you so much. That is my area. Not except that I'm not at the lower, I'm at the upper. Good morning, bless. My regards to your guest. President Mahama's team for the constitutional review is indeed solid and balanced. Their expertise and experience will undoubtedly lead to a thorough and impactful review process. As they embark on this crucial task, I join in wishing them all the best. Their success will undoubtedly contribute to the growth and development of our nation. Let's keep supporting them and advocating for a comprehensive review that reflects the needs and aspirations of our people. Kindly extend my greetings to Honorable Mohamed Bataglia, MP for Sisala East Constituency. Seydu John Paul, former SRC President, Tamale Technical University. Okay, thank you, Seydu John Paul, for your message. Well spoken, Felix. We are drinking acidic water in Pristia, Abugo, Sotakwa, and our farmlands are capitalized on unfavorably. We eat dust and drink acidic water. Okay. All right. Good morning, bless. How can the military be doing this to the good people of this country? What is their crime and what will you get for killing your fellow human being? My regards to Mr. Elikem Kotoko, Fuseni Liasu from Tamale Central. Okay, thank you, Fuseni, for your message. Let's do some more messages. It's time for us as a country to look at our Mineral Resources Act to renegotiate the percentage that comes to the nation. At least it should be 50-50 something. A failure of doing this as a nation, the youth will arise for operation recover all minerals sites in the country. Okay, thank you. Good morning. Watching you live from the city of Balaboy, Wa West District. Your panelists are on top of issues. Kudos to them. From Yonibe Kanyir, Joseph. Thank you, Joseph, for your message. Good morning, bless, and your panelists. God bless you. This one is coming from Efo Fafa. Oh, my heart is broken by the news of the demise of Dr. David Percy. May he rest in peace. Good morning. Yeah, Dr. Percy tragically passed on Saturday morning. Yeah, it's terrible. It was sudden. We are waiting for. He was actually supposed to be on a a fortnight ago. It didn't happen.
Almost every day he sends me one message or the other, pointing to things that the government should do. Ignore the fake propaganda by Federal Markins and his people.
2 days ago, Saturday morning.
Oh my God, what happened?
We do not know. We do not have the details yet, but we are waiting for. Yeah, very, very intelligent man, Dr. Percy. Comes, starts speaking. He could pause for a moment before.
Ghana has lost some real good people.
Let's do some more messages. This one here says that I'm Yaukisi from Tadi. Indeed, the NDC research agenda for the country is on course. Firstly, JM has fulfilled his promise to review Ghana's constitution by setting up a constitutional review team. Secondly, he has reduced the ministerial appointment, I beg your pardon, from 30 to 23 numerically. Thirdly, he has dispatched food to various senior high schools to fulfill his SHS promise to decentralize the school feeding program. Ghana is indeed on a reset pattern. It wouldn't be the morning show if I don't hear from Ken Williams. He sent his message. Good morning, host. In fact, the genocide in Gaza, please do not call, I beg you. The genocide in Gaza is the results of bloodthirsty policies of warmongers like Joe Biden, who is more interested in wasting billions of dollars to sponsor bloodbath in Israel, Ukraine, Syria, and Middle East. Thank God Americans have voted wisely against his satanic rule of genocide and homosexuality in the USA and in Ghana, where they want to legalize homosexuality. May he live to suffer for his massacres and crimes against humanity worldwide. Joe Biden was a curse, just like his friend Akufo-Addo, who were both partners in crime against humanity. Thank you, Ken Williams, for your message. Final message before we proceed to the next topic. Good morning. I'm Jonas from KJB, and I'm in support of everything your guest said, because what the short man did to this country, we can't fix in just a day. Talking about the former presidents. Well, right. Let's move on. Let's look at the constitutional review team that has been set up. They are supposed to come by a conclusion with their findings, I think, in 5 months. That should be ample time. But what do you make of the team and the people on there, Mr. Prince Eric J?
Well, again, I've heard many people already applaud the president for the choice of persons on the team. Safe to say that some people also wanted some additions like Vomawo and others. I think that the president in his own wisdom, and also the alignments that some of the people have taken, makes it also a little difficult to be brought on board. Vomawo and his team, I'm sure, would be making, or would have opportunities like all of us to make input. I know he's doing a program, I think today at the British Council, on the same issue and all that. So a collection of all these little bits of information will help enrich the constitutional review process. Just the same way that the oral is working. I'm sure this body would invite in due course input from the public. That's also not to discount the fact that there have been a previous, review of the Constitution, an attempt to review the Constitution. I remember this gentleman, Raymond Atuguba, and others embarked on a similar path during the days of Professor Mills, and Professor Mills and President John Mahama. It didn't go to the full length, and I think that this is the opportunity to finish, the obvious. There are few aspects of the Constitution that people point to. It's not perhaps a holistic review process that everybody's anticipating. I've listened to H. Kwesi Prempeh, that's Professor H. Kwesi Prempeh, on this topic number of times on radio and television, and I know where he stands also. So it's again very refreshing to see that the president has not taken through and through NDC people and just put them together, go change the constitution to suit us, as some people would have expected. And I'm sure if Akufo-Addo had the opportunity that President Mahama has with a 2/3 majority, he would have just railroaded, just like he was packing the courts everywhere. He would have packed the constitution with a lot of pro-MPP ideas, perhaps even put his family name in the constitution and his picture, as the forward. So we are thankful to Ghanaians for not, giving us that kind of situation and rather presenting us with a president who is, all-embracing, consultative in his approach. And I believe that those who have had the opportunity to have been put on this, should I say, historic path of reviewing our constitution should do a thorough job, not just for the appointing authority, but for their individual, shall I say, they are all people of very high, public standing, and the expectations of the public is going to be extremely high. So they should do it to credit their own reputations that they have as well. So they should do a diligent job, but more importantly, they should, as much as possible, carry the people along. The Constitution is the Constitution of Ghana, and it's for the people, and it should be by the people. Yeah? Because if you remember, the first Consultative Assembly was made up of ordinary people. The hairdressers, the beauticians, the drivers, the whatever, there were the lawyers, there were all sections of the society except the MPP that boycotted it. And of course, some of the elements like Asaf Mafo and others came on board through the back door. But we've seen the critics say all manner of things about the kind of composition because we're not part of it, the rubbish there. But this constitution has lived and outlived several attempts to, as it were, punch big holes in it. The wisdom, and I'll take just one aspect, for example, to showcase why there's great wisdom in the current constitution. In my view, there's a few places need tinkering. If you look at the Article 20, for example, sorry, let's start with 25. That's the part to do with education. It talks about free, compulsory, universal basic education. Now, if you don't make education free at the basic level, how do you make it compulsory? If I don't have the money, how do you compel me to take my kid to school? Wisdom right there. It gave a time frame within which it should start and so on and so forth. That is good. Then, if you look at the secondary level, it talks about progressively free. It didn't talk about straight away at once free, bellicose free. It says progressively within the confines of the availability of money to pay. Somebody tried to go bellicose free. Well, look at where it landed all of us. By the time he was exiting, schools didn't have money to feed students. School feeding cateresses were up in arms and demonstrating against the government. Schools can't reopen because, and universities for that matter, because WIC couldn't be paid to mark scripts. I mean, everything was bazaar, even before they left. And when they left, it was even worse bazaar. I think that we should be taking lessons from that. President Mahama and Mills decided to go on the progressively free. That was a constitutional method. But because somebody wanted to become known as the one who did free SHS, even though free SHS is in the constitution, the 1992 constitution, which preceded his coming into government in 2017. He thinks that he put it in there, and he would have changed the history of Ghana if he had not been exited the way Ghanaians have pushed him out with over 2 million, and some change. I mean, the EC would talk about maybe 1.6. I know it's about 2 million plus, but that's that given. I think that if you look at the tertiary education also, it talks about similar progressively free. Then it even talks about how we should deal with private institutions. That part, for example, I think we need to, kind of do something about, because we need to bring the private sector into the main frame of, education within the context of the state responsibility. And I think that the governments over time, including even President Koku, tried it. Whereas the state was not supposed to pay money towards private education, he gave them buses as a first test. Then it was built upon by the Mills Mahama government successively in trying to, as it were, evolve a system that brings the private, schools into the mainframe. The Akufo-Addo jettisoned them, so you realize that even in the free education thing, they were cut off. And so in terms of the access we had limited places because the private schools also had schools that can be contained. And that was the difference between the NDC, implementation and the MPP. So now that we are lucky to have a situation where it's going to evolve, and the review process is not just going to be a review as President Mahama promised, but a review that's going to have, shall I say, a broad stakeholders consultation on the way forward for education and other sectors. I think that a 5-month time frame makes it imperative on the government to start those deliberations quickly, so that whatever comes out of these consultations on the economy, on education, and so on and so forth, which are in the Constitution, because the economic rights of Ghanaians are in the Constitution, etc. And for me, I would want to see a land conference, because everybody knows that land, I eat, breathe, and sleep land. But if we are able to have our land situation also properly taken care of, we're not having the kind of chaos that Oral is trying to resolve. Because if you look at Article 20 of the Constitution, especially 5 and 6, I think that a judicial review would have been useful, because the Supreme Court of Ghana did injustice to all Ghanaians, not just to the lay people. It was a travesty of justice, complete travesty of justice, in the Ni Bobitetichu versus Attorney General ruling, where they said public interest is equivalent to public purpose. The Constitution is clear in Article 25 and 6 on how to return lands that are unused by the state, that it should not go to third parties like the BNI boards and the Jatos and others and the government appointees, etc., who have stolen our lands. And now that we are making an effort to retrieve them, we must also make sure that we review that Supreme Court ruling that made us have this situation in the first instance, where some Supreme Court justices, because they had interest in also joining the loot, agreed that there should be an interpretation as bad as this. How does this translate? That if the state takes a land for a purpose, stated purpose, that is in the public interest, that should now mean that if you are given the land, that's a private person, who ordinarily should be able to go to the open market to buy land, because there's land available. The state will take land and say it's using it for education, free SHS, Agenda 111, and so on. That should be the state's domain. When states trustee of all public acquired lands, and in that instance, as trustee, trust law also does not allow for the trustee to abuse trust property, appropriate it for himself, his friends, cronies, and so on. But look, the president acquires land and then shares it amongst his cronies. That in itself is a breach of the law. But I think also that even beyond the trust issue that I was talking about, within the land context, we as a people, having seen how difficult it was for the previous administration to get land for the free SHS, that was one of the contentions for the free SHS could not expand. The same argument was advanced for the Agenda 111, because communities across the country, and not just in Accra, whereas some people thought they were punishing the people of Accra, stealing the prime lands of La. We're talking, they're not minding us, or people are making noise. Now it's landed everywhere else. There's gold in, north east, etc., etc. The biggest gold mine, Upper East. Yes, this is the Cardinal mine in Upper East. In fact, there's iron ore and in fact gold almost everywhere in Ghana. Now their lands are also now prime. The same Accra problem is being visited on. The people are stealing lands in advance. Yeah. The people are stealing lands in advance of these places becoming prime. We should do this thing once and for all. That no one should, and I repeat, no one, not just politically exposed persons, as in government officials and their families and so on, as is being proposed by Honorable Okujeto Ablakwa in his proposals for a bill, the private members bill. I think it should be extended to no one. When the state acquires land using eminent domain or the powers of the president through an executive instrument or any other instrument, it should be strictly for states. The state, Ghana only. If the purpose changes, it should revert to the original owners so that they can also have their lands to do. But then again, the state reserves the right to reacquire, having given it back to the original owners, as the Constitution says in Article 25 and 6, as a first right of refusal. Then the state can reacquire. that land for another reason. So the purpose, the original purpose can change, then it comes to the people, then the state takes it for a different reason. But the state cannot take it, say that the purpose has changed, but I'm still retaining it. That is not the purpose of the Constitution. At the same time, you cannot take it for purpose A, that is states run, and then give it to third party B, who is private sector. That should be totally outlawed, and I want to see it in black and white in the Constitution when it is reviewed, so that we don't need the Supreme Court, however tainted or however just or however else it is, to give us interpretation that is so basic in English that everybody can understand, that stated public purpose. How does it translate into public interest? And then you tell us that because the private person can now have the land and use it for a hotel, like in the case of Jane Mensah on plot C39, which was given to her in 2004, so that's the one near the free zones area. So because you and I can go to the hotel and use the hotel, it is in the public interest because the public can go there. But who gets the money? Everyone Jane Mensah and the IE.
Go there for free.
Thank you. That if the cantonment civil aviation land is taken for aviation purposes, and now we know that technology has advanced to the point where you don't need those things. We all know the truth. We don't need those poles over there for planes to land in Koku. That land, the purpose is no longer valid. It's not tenable. President Koku took a chunk of 30 acres of it to do the AU village. No visiting president was even staying there, as the purpose that he claimed had changed to it's now in private hands. That should automatically be taken from them and either given to the land people, or the state should use it for a state thing that belongs to the state, not private persons. Then the 60 that is left, Akudo also and Jinapo Samuel come after what's his name, Asensuchem took that thing, a small uprising by the workers and the people of land. Now they've given to the governor of the Bank of Ghana some galamseyers, including Kedinfwa and others, for peanut, 11,000 for land that is worth $1 million, almost $1 million. You pay 11,000, you get. Why? So we, the original owners, what happens to us? That should not be our bane, because it will be the bane of the people in Tamale, in Kumasi, and everywhere else. Because this pilot is being done everywhere else we can see, and the state becomes the ultimate loser because that land is lost to the state. Land does not grow. Land is gone. It's gone. The purpose that was taken initially for is lost on us. So if the civil aviation people know that it is no longer tenable to use those pools that they were using to lie to us, the government should state a different purpose. And so that should be clearly in the laws. And you see, when it comes to the other mineral resources, etc., the state says it should come to Parliament. So forest and mining concessions, etc., even though the the Forestry Commission and the Minerals Commission may give concessions, it has to be passed through Parliament. In the case of the land, it doesn't come to Parliament, which should be even special, planning, etc., rezoning and so on, has to finally be given authority, because if it's a state land, it belongs to the state, as in all Ghanaians, and all Ghanaians have their representatives in Parliament. So the black and white print, to avoid us having to go to the Supreme Court and have, I don't want to qualify the Supreme Court or its people in there in a certain way, but because my sadness involves from the fact that we have seen at least 2 Chief Justices, Sofa Akuf and Georgina Wood, become beneficiaries of land in a manner similar to what the BNI boss got. But because they are Supreme Court judges, the judges, how different is it from the BNI guy who is being chased by Oral today? How different is it from the governor at the Bank of Ghana and his deputies who are under siege today? How different is it from those other people who have wrongfully? We must deal with them even worse than that, because they are the ones who, if there's a problem, we have to go to. And in the petition from the La Manche, which was given to President Akufo-Addo on the 29th of December 2017, when he assumed office, the last day, I personally was the one who was sent to give it to him. Duke Ofuriatta, then at the Chief of Staff's office, was the one who received it. He indicated, among other things, that these things that are going on by the state against the last two must be stopped, especially the clandestine attempt by the military to take a land. The president refused all this. And I'm saying that all stools have a right. We've seen it happen in some instances. So when you see, for example, that the Ashanti stool is being given 170 whatever acres of land by some executive instruments, and that includes military lands and so on. It should be applicable in other parts of Ghana. That would include La and therefore Plecho, the Burma Camp area and so on. Okay? In much the same way, it should be applicable in the north, etc. There should be uniformity of our laws. Because the constitution is there not for some Ghanaians and other Ghanaians treated differently. That philosophy of the NPP, that some Ghanaians are more Ghanaian than others, must be repudiated. And I think that the constitutional review people should look at how they equalize all Ghanaians, because all Ghanaians are equal before the law in any case. And so the constitution must look at that in its entirety. We have a unitary country, and the laws must be done carefully. Finally, I think also that the chieftaincy institution, and the president recently talked about it, the codification of chiefs, which has led to a lot of conflicts. If you look at the Koku situation and other places, you and now, these things must be clear, or there must be greater clarity in some of the provisions in the constitution that lends itself to some interpretation that may be given funny based on who finds himself being or herself being empaneled. And we've seen very funny decisions of our courts. And I don't need to go to the Afenyo ones and others like that. We've all witnessed recent ones, and I use the Professor as Attorney General as an example. I think that they have their work cut out for them. We can only wish them well, but every Ghanaian has a responsibility to make input. I think that resetting the courts, resetting the judiciary, resetting Parliament itself should be factored in. We've not looked at situations where we can have a minority in government. We've seen an even Parliament. We've seen now an absolute majority where NDC has a super majority to thirds, and a micro mini minority. We may have to look at improving our constitution to cater for these kinds of situations, and even absurd situations where we can have an independent president. It is possible for us to have an independent president one day. We must start looking at all these, and within that context, fine-tuning things that perhaps the framers of the constitution initially didn't see. And then last but not the least is that the transitional provisions in the constitution, most of them have outlived their usefulness in protecting the Rawlings era and the PNDC era, where things were inserted in there to allow for the constitution itself to have longevity. And it has had longevity. Assuming that they were not there, perhaps we would not have had a constitutional regime. So I think that, yes, we must have a constitutional review. This time has come. We must applaud the president for setting up the committee. The committee should get to work hard, quickly. Ghanaians, help them, support them. And let's get the country to work.
All right. Thank you very much. Mr. Sylvie, let's hear from you.
Yes. I think, this whole review constitutional review started in the days of President Mills. That time, our current president was his vice. So I think it's a good call. That's something that our current president was part of is being continued at this time. The committee looking at I took the opportunity to read a bit about each of the members within the committee, and they are all people of high standing. They have made their names and they have left indelible marks in their various professions. And so I think it couldn't have been better than this. However, a little challenge is that normally I frown on committees that are even numbers. It should have been an odd number, so that when it comes to a decision making and there is a tie, then the extra can actually create a majority, amongst them. There are other schools of thought that are also saying that the number is quite few, it's not much, such that they were proposing that the other important sectors of our society should have been part of it. For example, the proponent of those who are saying that the president could have added more are saying that the Ghana Bar Association ought to have had a representation. they are also proposing that academia, could have also had a, part or a representation on the committee. But if you look at the credentials of the people, I don't fully agree with such, that school of thought. But because if you look at the members that make up this particular committee, you will see that their portfolio actually cut across. Of course, we have lawyers amongst them, so indirectly we can say that the Ghana Bar Association is well represented. Some of them are also still in academia when I read, unless maybe things have been updated. So it more or less the academia is also well represented in there. So
you mean they wanted institutional representation?
Yes, that's
but
what
the representation still
yes,
access this.
Of course, yes. So I think it's a good thing. It's a good committee, except that if it were to be an odd number, it would have been a good thing in terms of decision making.
But how do you like the gender parity?
The gender, I think we have.
Oh, sorry for being a TV.
Yes, yes, yeah. The gender, I think we have 1 or 2 women over there.
There's the former chairperson of the Electoral Commission.
Yes, and some people have been saying that she's an NDC. Yesterday I had a heated debate with a colleague of mine because she was appointed by President Mahama as the EC. She was thinking,
So we have Dr. Isi Ansa, who's also a woman.
A woman, yeah.
Mrs. Charlotte Osei is there. Justice Sufa Adingra is also there.
So 3 out of 8.
Yes.
It's not bad.
Yeah,
it's good. And these women are of high standard in their various professions.
Yeah.
So the gender is there, even though Oliver Twist, we could have called for more.
Yeah.
At least if it were to be 50-50.
No,
but
I'm looking forward to more women participation in the governance process. I mean, if you look at the appointments that the president has done, a few women there.
But the president has done well.
But I'm looking forward to more. With the remaining, I'm looking at the deputy ministerial positions. I'm looking at a few.
Definitely, some will come from there. If you look at gender, to have a deputy minister. Of course,
I can't decide for the president, but I see Honorable Zanet.
But even with the current numbers, I think it is about 30% now, right? put the remaining appointment that is actually pending. What we have now,
over 5,000 appointments. Within the purview.
No, we are talking about the ministerial appointments.
No. You see, sometimes you put too much premium on
ministerial appointments. Yeah.
The real action happens down
there.
The CEOs and others. If you're a minister and your agencies are not functioning, you just be there as a policy person and you fail.
Yeah.
So I think that so far, if you look at the petroleum sector, and not just any woman. But the caliber of the women that President is speaking speaks about his agenda and where he's going to take this country. So, yes, the President will have more opportunities to make appointments. We all want more women on board, but certainly I think he's doing a fine
we agree. Except that, like Oliver Twist.
Of course, we want more.
We cannot be sated.
But we can't say that the president has also performed badly when it comes to the appointment so far. At least the last time I did my calculation, except the latest appointment that came, I realized I think he was around 30%, which has been the campaign messages for all the political parties over the years. So going forward with the deputy ministry appointment, CEOs and board members and all of that, I'm sure more women will be on board. So I think the president is doing well.
Right. My time is up. I want to say huge thanks to especially those of you who have taken time off your busy schedules to watch us this very morning. I'm extremely grateful. Special greetings to Christopher. Christopher and his granddad, they always watch the show together. And this morning they've sent me a message that they've been watching and then they've enjoyed the conversation from my panelists. Thank you so much, Grandpa. Thank you so much, Chris.
My message, that's for you.
Oh, okay.
Somebody says that he would love to see you on Ibrahim Muhammad's private jet.
Oh, okay. The Jata jet.
Yes.
Okay. People are already speculating that President Mahama is also flying at $17,000 per.
No,
$17,000.
it's not true. It's not true. Jata has been. Okay, sorry. Did I say Jata? Ibrahim Mahama has been a philanthropist. We've seen him pay for the hospital bills of young people and so on. And it's not about his brother being president. You remember the dredging of the Korle Lagoon for free. He's done a lot of things for free already for this country. And currently, the president has not gone into the Flagstaff House.
Of course.
The Flagstaff House. I mean the Flagstaff House.
Yeah.
He's not gone in there. He's not gone there.
Yeah.
And for very good reasons. Security reasons. You want to have the place swept. When I mean sweeping, not sweeping with a broom, but sweeping electronically to ensure that there are no baggings of the place and so on. And the president has made a request to know what the fleet of the Air Force is, because Air Force One for the president. If he was to travel, he would have had to naturally rely on that. The military is yet to come back. He just assumed office. His defense minister is not in place. And yet he needed to go to thank
my time is up.
People my time for his inauguration.
Right, my time is up.
The bridges safe.
My time is up. Special greetings to all of you. Thank you to all of you that did the watching. Extremely grateful. And to my guest, Mr. Silfi and PDA, thank you so much. I'll see you tomorrow on the newspaper. Prince Derek J, I know. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.